Welcome back to Fox 5 on the Hill Live this Sunday morning. You know, the political news this week is a stark reminder of the deep political differences in this country. The abortion pill access under fire now in courts across the country. Lawmakers in Tennessee ousted in former President Trump's indictment on criminal charges. For more on these stories, I want to bring on our political panel this Sunday morning. Max Cohen is a congressional correspondent for Punchbowl News, and Joe Mathieu is the co-host of Bloomberg TV's Balance of Power and Sound On radio program. Gentlemen, we thank you both for coming in with us. Obviously, what's been going on in Tennessee has captured a lot of attention in the last couple hours. The Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, flying out to Tennessee personally to meet with these lawmakers. Joe, let me start with you. There have been things that Republicans across the country have done that have bolstered Democratic and liberal voting blocs. Could this be another thing that they have done that maybe could be coming back to regret at some point if they are now at the point where people are now looking at state legislatures?
Right.
State legislatures?
Just imagine if this had not happened. We wouldn't know who the Tennessee Three are. Kamala Harris wouldn't be visiting them. The president wouldn't be talking about it. And they wouldn't be about to be reinstated, which is likely going to happen. They're going to be reelected back to those seats stronger than ever. So I think what we've seen happen here is they've created at least two major political celebrities who will be coming to Washington at the invite of the president, and particularly the two who were expelled. This is just the beginning of a saga that will last through an election cycle.
Max, here in Washington, we always tend to focus on what goes on in the Beltway, at the Capitol, or the White House, the Supreme Court. The state legislatures, though, you know, if you've not been following what's going to be going on how elections are run in this country, on the state level, and, you know, county, local government, is this a form of government that people just do not pay enough attention to, which really has their hands on the balance of power in these states? Places like Tennessee, you don't have to go back that far when they said Senate Democrats, one by the name of Al Gore, who was the Democratic senator from Tennessee at one point.
Certainly, I think you make a great point there. So much of policy dictated in our personal lives happen at the state level, not the federal level, honestly. But just for a moment, let's remember what this protest was about. It was about gun violence, that shooting in Nashville. And not only has this elevated these young Nashville and Memphis Democrats, it's also brought to the fore the issue of gun violence, an issue where young voters overwhelmingly favor the Democratic position. So back to your earlier point of helping Democrats here, it's just shown a spotlight here on gun violence, issue Democrats feel very good about with young voters. One
of the other hot topics of late, the last couple of hours, has been this pair of rulings by one judge limiting the FDA as far as allowing this abortion pill, as it's been so called, and another one in Washington state. Joe, does it appear pretty clear to you at this point where we're headed back to the Supreme Court for another decision on this?
Right.
And could respin the whole wheel on the abortion debate?
I think that's absolutely right, yes. Son of Dobbs, if you will, the sequel. Look, we saw what happened after Roe v. Wade was brought down. I was in front of the Supreme Court that day. I'll never forget what we saw and heard from people, and it's manifested itself repeatedly in states like Wisconsin, like Michigan, like Kansas, and it's a conversation that Democrats would like to have, not one that they're running from. If you look at the way this polls, it's likely advantage Democrats on a national level here. As far as the next 7 days go, we've got a lot to learn about what's going to happen with these two conflicting rulings.
Max, one of the things that Republicans had said after the Dobbs decision was that they were going to now allow states to make these decisions in a state-by-state cases. This pill, in a large measure, in a lot of places where, you know, surgical procedure abortions were no longer allowed, was a way that abortions were able to kind of proceed in some way. By going after the abortion pill, have Republicans now taken the next step, or the conservative judiciary, to strike this down?
This is what Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said yesterday to reporters. He said, look, this is even going further than abortion. This is about the FDA approval process. This judge in Texas is going beyond just this abortion pill. So I think certainly it's taken a look at the federal level. And again, this is an issue Democrats won on in the midterms. I mean, this was expected to be a red wave in 2022. And as Joe was mentioning, Democrats won in unexpected places, perhaps didn't have, there was no red wave. Voters angry about abortion rights.
We sit here and we are staring out into what will be next year's election cycle in 2024. So you've got issues like abortion, which again have been, getting a lot of attention. You've got issues like gun control, again getting a lot of attention. But it's been fascinating over the last couple of weeks or days to watch the reaction to President Trump's arraignment the other day. You've got House Republicans, conservatives who have been screaming from the rafters about this, saying that the judicial process is now rooted in politics. What do you make of the differences between how the House Republicans are reacting and how the Senate Republicans are reacting?
Well, look, as you would expect, to be honest with you, and it also kind of has to do with where they are on the spectrum. We actually heard from Mitt Romney. To hear from a centrist like that, to be denouncing this case, knowing that he's not a Trump supporter, is a pretty big deal here. But keep in mind, we've got 2 more cases coming, Fulton County, Georgia, and we've got a special counsel here in Washington investigating January 6th and classified documents. Those are going to be much more meaningful, likely, and there is a concern that this case in New York will inform the way people interpret those. And some will say, weaponization of government, I've had it. They're obviously coming after Donald Trump no matter what he does.
Max, especially on the House side, could this open up Republicans to have even more attacks on the Department of Justice and the FBI headquarters? We had a story earlier in the newscast that there's already a bill to not fund the new FBI headquarters.
Yeah, Jim Jordan chairs the Weaponization of the Federal Government Subcommittee. This is a new committee created just this Congress by House Republicans. Their main focus is looking at instances where they claim there's bias against conservatives. This is opening the door, and we've already seen Jordan, as chair of the Judiciary Committee, open up investigations into the Manhattan District Attorney's Office of their investigation into Trump.
All right, it's a lot to cover here. Max, Joe, we appreciate you coming in with us on this Sunday morning. We wish
Happy
you both
Easter.
happy holiday. All right.